So many people. We got a lot of people here.
We love it.
We don't even have enough seats for all the people, which I do apologize about. There's a seat right there. Yeah, there's two right here. Feel free if you'd like to sit down. Feel free. Folks got some room back there on the couch. Yeah. So, thank you all for coming out. This is so exciting. I'm pretty sure this is probably the most people. This is definitely the most people we've ever had at Orr Street, which we've done these events here at Orr for a really long time. But this is our first time back since the unfortunate fires last year. So let's give it up for Orr Street first. Yeah, very, very happy to be back. Let's get a show of hands. I've started doing this every time. If this is your first Creative Mornings event, please raise your hand. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, you're probably wondering what Creative Mornings is, or maybe you did some research. Creative Mornings is a global organization. This is our local chapter here in Columbia, Missouri. And it's all about bringing community together. So we have a monthly speaker series. These are done all over the world, as we'll kind of look at here in a little bit. And every month there is a theme. So this month's theme is layers. The cool thing about the themes is a local chapter gets to pick the theme. So this one was chosen by the Lausanne chapter, so that's in Switzerland, so that's pretty cool. And then the artwork is done by a local artist that's part of that chapter. So this piece was actually done by Catherine Olivia Pearson. So usually I read like this super long narrative about layers and how it relates to the creative process or the human experience, whatever. I'm gonna skip that though, because we're running a little behind, and also I'm really excited about today's icebreaker. Yeah, that's right, we do an icebreaker. And this is gonna be an interactive one. I expect full participation. Very simple, you just raise your hand. That's all you gotta do. So yeah, series of prompts here, and then if you relate to it, let's get a show of hands. It's early. Some of these are a little introspective, so I apologize in advance if I spark any emotions. But the first one's pretty good. So raise your hand if you've ever surprised yourself with a hidden talent. Ooh. Nice. Raise your hand if you've ever been surprised by someone else's hidden talent. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. Let's get an example. Who's got an example? Anybody got one off the top of their head, or did everybody just raise their hand? Oh yeah, hope back there. Yeah. How do I phrase this? Have you experimented with different objects? What's that?
Sometimes I'll like just throw things at him. I'm like, try it.
And he just keeps going. Okay, yeah. I love it. That's great. Raise your hand if you've discovered an unexpected passion. Ooh, nice. That's good. That's always a good feeling, you know, where you just like start doing something. You're like, I really connect with this. Okay, raise your hand if you feel like you present different personalities at different groups or situations. Ooh, baby. Yeah, that's and anyone that didn't raise their hand, a little sus. That's not what we're here for. We're not here to dig into that. I think this is the last one. Raise your hand if you've ever had a moment of self-discovery that changed the way you saw yourself. Oh yeah. See, so this is what I meant. It's like you're gonna be thinking about this during lunch today or something. Who's got an example of a moment of self-discovery that they'd be open to share? Yeah, I know this one's a little uncomfortable.
I guess I will.
Yeah.
I joined a writing group, and as an adult, I hadn't put time into writing, and I just started like doing a little moment of meditation, and then like a sentence comes to me, and then this whole thing pours out of me.
Yeah.
And it's been really magical and not what I expected. I used to write a lot as a kid, but never gave myself the time and space as an adult.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Is that local or is that like a virtual thing?
It's local. It's at UU Universalist or Unitarian Universalist Church.
Yeah.
We meet, I think it's second Saturdays. I might be wrong, but
Okay.
it's been really amazing for me.
Yeah, very cool.
Mhm.
That's awesome. I actually have a related point to that that I will share here in a little bit. So, like I said, first of all, thank you all for participating. Thank you for dealing with that, I guess. So, like I said, Creative Mornings, it's a global organization. So, there's a lot of people meeting, well, not technically right now per se, but on Friday, February 21st in the morning. I'm pretty sure, so I've started doing this every month. This is probably the longest list we've had. So we've got Detroit here. I should really look up the acronyms before. DC. Here we are. Here we are.
Austin, Texas.
Yeah. Probably Minneapolis, it must be.
Yeah. Nashville. Our friends out in Nashville.
Phoenix.
Milwaukee.
Tucson.
Yeah. All these groups meeting today. So. Yeah, super cool, super cool. A couple shout outs really quick and then we'll get going. First shout out is to Adobe. Adobe is our global sponsor, so they sponsor all of Creative Mornings. They've seen the value in the Creative Mornings community all over the world and have been generous enough to sponsor. Go check out adobe.com/express. They've got a bunch of free tools. I actually use these tools for work. They're super great to just like get something quick and easy going. And most of them, like I said, are free. So yeah, definitely go check those out. Thank you to Adobe. Next up, sponsor Serendipity. So yeah, let's get a round of applause. For those of you that were at our event last month at Serendipity, it was awesome. The recording is available online if you want to check it out. They have an upcoming event with the market. So this is April 6th through December 14th. I think I saw Elizabeth here somewhere. Yeah. I mean, I kind of just sprung this on you, I guess. But yeah. So is this with the farmers market, or is it like a continuation of that?
Surprise!
Yeah, here we are.
Another thing.
Yeah. It's a big public thing tomorrow, so you guys are in on the first bits of news. The Orr Street Farm and Art Market had their last season, sadly, sort of, and I am starting a new market to continue their traditions. And I thank my friend Laura Vientos for this opportunity. It's gonna be Sunday market, but just one block up, not even a block, across the street, that's Serendipity, so, yeah.
Very cool.
Stay tuned.
Very cool. Yep, definitely just sprung that on you, but super exciting stuff. Hopefully everybody can make it out to that. And of course, Orr Street again. They're so gracious with their space. They do have an event tonight, so if you have anything going on there, they got a fashion show here tonight. Oh yeah, here we go. So yeah. Well, that's exciting.
Heck yeah.
Wow. Okay. Very cool. So yeah, and I know. I was gonna ask if y'all had plans tonight, and then no one was gonna raise their hand, so I was like, you need to be here. And I know y'all don't have. Most of y'all don't have plans tonight, so you definitely come back to Orr Street tonight and enjoy yourself. Love our sponsors. If you're interested in sponsoring, or you have an organization that might be interested in sponsoring, send us an email, Columbia@creativemornings.com. We do have a couple upcoming events. I don't know why this is getting weird on me here. I did want to call out our next two events. So we traditionally, the third Friday of every month, mark it down. Some people have reached out asking about the cadence of our events. If you're not on our newsletter, it's not an annoying newsletter. We send 2 emails a month at the start of the month and then the week of the event. And it gives you everything you need to know, gives you ample time to sign up and everything. So if you are not part of the newsletter and you want to be, Find me afterwards, I'll get your email and we'll get you added to it. But if you RSVP, because everyone RSVP, you're already a part of the newsletter, so hopefully you're already receiving those. But I did want to call out our next two events. Next month, so this is kind of coming back to our icebreaker, we're doing a creative writing workshop as part of our event. So Anne, over there with Woodruff is going to be leading us through that. The theme is parallel. That will be at the Mont Mini Gallery. So if you went to our events towards the end of last year out at the Boone County Historical Society off of 63, there's a great gallery back there. And so that's where the event will be next month. And then super exciting, so we do like a survey like every year-ish of our attendees, and every time the biggest piece of feedback is like, can we do like a non-morning event? Is that something we can make happen? We're doing it! April 10th, Serendipity. We'll be having a happy hour with Karen Merrick Grundy as our speaker. Super exciting stuff, more on that to come, but mark your calendars.
And follow us on social.
And follow us on social. Okay, cool. So, last thing, and then I am done talking. Manifesto. So, we read the Creative Mornings Manifesto to kind of like get us in the groove for the day. I could use a volunteer to read our manifesto today. Who wants to read it? Who's feeling it? Who's got the spirit? I'll pick someone. I'm not afraid to do it.
Okay, my eyesight's not great, but everyone is creative. A creative life requires bravery and action, honesty and hard work. We're here to support you, celebrate with you, and encourage you to make the things you love. We believe in the power of community. We believe in giving a damn. We believe in face-to-face connections and learning from others in hugs and high fives. We bring together people who are driven by passion and purpose, confident that they will inspire one another and inspire change in neighborhoods and cities around the world. Everyone is welcome.
Awesome. Give it up. All right. I'm going to pass it off to volunteer Sarah to introduce our speaker.
Ooh, excited. Good morning again, everyone. Thanks for coming. Today we're diving into the theme of layers, the hidden depths that shape our experiences and stories. And no one brings those layers quite to life like today's speaker. Adrienne Luther Johnson is a muralist and designer who turns blank walls into vibrant stories. You've likely seen her work around town on storefronts that brighten our streets and murals that transform public spaces. From local businesses to major brands like Walmart, Adrienne's art connects people and places in beautiful ways. But her impact goes beyond the paint. Adrienne is deeply committed to our community, sharing her love of creativity with local students and adults through art at classes at Cooper's Landing, inspiring the next generation of artists. Today she's here to peel back the layers of her creative process and share how she brings color, wonder, and connection to our world. Let's give a very warm welcome to Adrienne Luther Johnson.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Adrienne Luther Johnson. I am a local artist. I also do a lot of work with kids and adults here in the community. I also work at Cafe Berlin, so you might know me from there. My husband and I run Cafe B, so I do a lot of the nighttime events. So I kind of dabble in a bunch of different stuff. I like to think that Cafe B is like my anchor job because it's like a teamwork setting, so I can kind of get caffeinated around people, which you guys know is the way to go. And then I kind of from there will hop on the road and go to a mural site. And also I'll teach usually Saturday mornings. So if you have little ones, you guys are welcome to bring them out to Crafts at Cooper's. It's Saturday mornings starting in June. And that's from 9 until noon, so it's a total vibe. We just like hang out at the river and do crafts, and there is no bad art. So usually my task at Cooper's is to make sure that the parents don't tell the kids what to do. So, which I didn't realize was such a thing, but a lot of parents still need to shed the rules of art that they learned. A lot of people get hung up on photorealism, and with 5-year-olds, why? So. But today I want to talk about layers. So I'm not gonna lie, I got really heady thinking about this. I was like, I got super meta, and then I ran it past my husband. He was like, "What the hell?" And, like literally, my initial draft of this, I was like, "It's so cold out. We could be putting layers on, and then have like each layer of clothing represent a part of the art." And he's like, "What the hell?" So instead I went with cake. But I don't know about you guys. Is anybody feeling kind of weird about the world? Okay, that's my vibe too right now. And so it's also weird to be talking to you guys about art whenever I feel like I'm at a crossroads right now with my, like the truth of my art and the authenticity while also delivering a product often for people who commission work. So striking that balance in 2025 has proven the most difficult task of my creative journey, as well as my professional journey. Often I find myself stuck if I'm just doing artwork for myself. And then if I have a client that comes in and says, "This is my goal, here's what I want to accomplish," for some reason that activates a part of my brain where I'm like, "Okay, yes, let's do this." And so I want to first unpack the layers of an artist, and maybe this resonates with you, maybe it's a me thing, but all the same, here's my cake. So let's start by talking about the artist in private. So this is kind of the root of the artwork. So anytime that you make literally anything, I don't even care if it's a cup of coffee, as soon as you decide that you have initiated a creative process, that is the artist in private. So this is the start of our cake. You're doing the art for peace of mind, it's meditative, it could be something physical, it could be something where you're just kind of playing with ideas. As soon as there's a creative output, that would be the essence of the private artist. So it's kind of, the private artist is the initial form before any viewership. And that's really hard to come by right now. As soon as another person engages with that art, it is now released from the private artist form, and it instead enters, say, a digital space. So maybe you're posting on your story that you've got a work in progress. So as soon as that's perceived, then you enter the artist as the digital public artist form. So say here's me kind of with my cat taking a photo of the artwork on the floor. There's a lot to be said about the context in which you photograph your artwork. But my belief is that as soon as you post that artwork online, it is now being perceived and it is no longer your artwork. It becomes other people's artwork as well, which is a beautiful thing, but now more than ever is also very scary. It is no longer in your hands. I recently read Doppelganger. Has anybody read Doppelganger? It's a really interesting book about Naomi Klein, who is a author. She's a public speaker. But there's another Naomi Wolf, who was kind of in 2016 also very public facing. And Naomi Klein has found herself confused in the public eye with Naomi Wolf. So she gets canceled online for a bunch of shit that Naomi Wolf said. So she wrote this book about the perception of self online, and she makes the point that as soon as you post something in the digital space, every single view reinterprets that artwork and essentially creates a digital doppelganger of yourself. So you are being mirrored online. There are layers of yourself that are without your control. So having that just inherently in the back of our minds, which I think everybody now, we've had the internet long enough that that's just inherent in our presence online. So how our relationship is with that is very dependent on what sort of people are commenting, what sort of words of affirmation we're getting, what spaces we find ourselves on online. I know personally, I have really tried to purge a lot of the content I am getting online because I'm realizing it is messing with my head. So, and there's also the sense of, here's this presentation of myself online. I have to add a caption to the artwork, which is really hard because then you're not only making an artist statement, you're trying to judge how much do I say, how vulnerable do I get, and that limits the authenticity. So if I were to have a piece of artwork say that I, totally unpacked in the caption and it gets like 3 likes, that like messes with my head, and I'm sure you guys also know the struggle of getting 3 likes. I know, you know. It's really weird putting your artwork out there, but I found myself in this space where I don't have any other choice, and so right now I'm unpacking my relationship with the internet. I would also like to point out that as soon as you post something online, capitalism has entered the chat. So there's no way around it. It's instead a relationship that we have to kind of treat with a lot of different gentleness, but also being aggressive if you want to make sure that you're getting your point across online, which is also something that I'm battling. So we just have to be gentle with each other online is the point. But that brings me to the public artist. So I feel like I'm in a room of a lot of people that are morning people. Are you guys morning people? What is this? I am a morning person, but I thrive on email in the morning. So if I get caffeinated, I'm sending off a ton of emails. That being said, in the public space, there is a lot of different presentations of self, kind of like in our icebreaker, we were discussing who are you in different settings. And that masking creates different elements of self in the public space as well. So your relationship one-on-one with someone might be different than your relationship with another person. And all of those layers of the cake go into how people perceive your artwork. So for me, that would be like if I'm out at Cooper's Landing, I'm going for like Miss Frizzlecore out there. So I want people to think that I just like showed up and like, oh, I just like am covered in paint all the time. And then here's like speaking engagements where I have like a 2-inch heel, and that's what you're getting from me today. And then often I'm out in public, and that's honestly my truest sense of self is whenever I'm painting and people can visit me while I'm painting. It's where my heart rate isn't like insane. I'm also able to engage with people with more tonality about the piece, and they can see it in the context. So we'll get to some examples here later, but I just wanted to kind of unpack all the different selves I am, because I'm seeing a lot of people that I know on the internet here. And I feel like I know you, but do we really know each other? And then also, I don't know if you guys like black out socially sometimes when you do too much small talk, but that also creates another sense of myself. So I recently read the presentation of self in everyday life, and Naomi Klein also draws from this book a lot. But it brings up the front stage and the back stage of self. So who you are whenever you're around people versus who you are whenever you're just at home or in kind of the private artist space. So I wanted to kind of unpack that in a little Venn diagram, which you can kind of see. I don't know if everybody can see this. We'll bring it back up later. But there's kind of 2 spaces. There's the public and then there's the artist. And then whenever you're creating artwork, when those 2 spaces overlap, that is the art. So when it is perfectly balanced, I believe that the art is truest to the artist's intent because you want to be perceived. You want that art to speak to the public, but you lose a bit of control as soon as you put it out there. It's vulnerable. But if you're trusting the space, say you put it up in a gallery show that has a thesis that aligns with what your artwork is about, where there's kind of some guideposts where people can understand what that artwork is, that is going to be a more balanced artwork. So if it is completely overlapped and the artist has explicitly made that art for the public's consumption, that's when something might go viral. So you've made something that is following the trend. You've used the trending audio. You got the overhead shot. You've clipped it so that it is being sold. So that's when capitalism has totally overtaken the artwork, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's inevitable in our space. But how can we as artists navigate that is, I think, our greatest task in 2025. So those are the layers I'm kind of unpacking for myself professionally. And if I'm being real, I don't have a call to action. This is just something to ruminate on. I just wanted to be in a public space and be like, am I right? So, thank you. You can kind of tell that when this Venn diagram, and let's be real, I don't totally understand Venn diagrams. I wasn't paying attention in that class. This is also like napkin drawings, and I was like, ta-da, this is my presentation. But whenever those 2 overlap, your artwork is explicitly for public consumption, which is very scary and also a huge responsibility. So let's talk about whenever the commissioner enters the space. Just to reiterate, we've got the artist and the public, and so that's just whenever you're doing something for yourself and you're posting it online, and then it becomes artwork that is perceived by the broader public. Say somebody wants you to do something, okay, which is my job all the time. I actually really enjoy being told what to do when it comes to art. For some reason, I like the community aspect of it, but every once in a while, I think we all know, you speed date with different clients and you realize that maybe you don't want to fall in love with all of your clients. This enters the artist with my little cake over there, so that's me. I can draw good, and I'm kind of fast at it. And I also have commercial experience and a degree in journalism and a bunch of other things that make it where I am very privileged to be able to market my artwork in a more commercialized space. Then there's the commissioner. So I gave him a little top hat. I kind of love it. I've never met a person that looks like this that commissioned art for me, but we'll call it Walmart. So the commissioner has their own brand goals. Understanding those brand goals, I think a lot of us realize that in capitalism, there's just going to be brands, and what a brand is something that we need to respect and also be agreeable with, but also as an artist, there's a push and pull on how can we convey something that is true to ourselves in the artwork, but also achieve the brand goals of the client. So the client also is not just representing their brand, they're also bringing their own lived experience to the table, their own taste. Understanding who you're working with is really important in this facet. So also there's just like a ton of internalized preferences that people will not tell you until you've already done a draft. Yeah, it's fine. So it's usually like, I love it, but honestly that's fine. So whenever these two get together, there's the commissioned artwork here in the middle. And I like to think, I just got married a couple years ago, so and I learned about the whole you, me, us thing, where it's like, okay, so he's got his thing, I've got my opinions, and then we have to like compromise and like make us. I actually thrive on it, I'm a Pisces. So I like to think of this in kind of the you, me, us territory where there's what I'm bringing to the table as the artist with my own sense of style. I understand that my client has hired me because they've seen my work. For some reason, whenever they hire me, I just blank out on what my style is though, and I'm like, okay, I'll just try to do what you want me to do. But that overlap in the commission artwork is the goal, but how do we get there is very tricky. So we've entered this Venn diagram where we have the commissioner with their own sense of what they want their brand deliverables to be. They want it to look a certain way, but they also want me to do it. So they want it to look how I want it to look. And finding that balance is very difficult, especially whenever it's in a public space. So especially with murals, I'm finding that often the client's goals and my goals may overlap, but as soon as it's put in a public space, it's up for viewership and interpretation, which is fun to experiment with, unless the brand has some idea of what they want and I have to figure out, okay, what's the public perception prior to actually executing the artwork. So I've kind of broken it down where if it's just me and the commissioner, so it's just, someone that needs a nursery mural, or maybe it's someone that just wants a portrait of them and their family, something that the goal is pretty easily perceived. I can meet them where they're at. I understand what they're looking for. Often the clients that I take on where it's just me working with them have a sort of sense of like, here's, myself. They know what me as an artist is going to provide. If it's just the commissioner and the public, say Walmart, then they have certain marketing goals that might be more business focused, and this is way more, I would say, like on the capitalist side of things. This is where it's commercialized, it's branded, it has lost a sense of the artist. So they have a means to an end with the artwork, which for me, I'm having to kind of understand in this climate in 2025 that a lot of work is very, very over here. The artist and the artist's hand and the artist's experiences has been totally taken out of it. I'm looking towards trends in AI. I'm looking towards art as a means to an end to convey a service that is monetized. Unfortunately, this might be where we're going, but luckily in Columbia, we have a lot of really great small businesses and even larger brands that are very supportive of the arts. And I have face-to-face meetings with them. I'm not just receiving a creative brief and like being sent on my way. So if it's just me and the public engaging, usually these are more highly engaging pieces. So I'm thinking of murals that might be like over here at the North Village Arts District, like a floral piece that is specifically for the public's engagement as a positive asset. And that's something that I feel like I can control a little bit more. It's more stylistic. It is less branded often. It's more so just me and the public that are engaging, and often the commissioner is left out. And then there is the whole kit and caboodle here, which is, I think, very hard to grasp in finding the perfect balance of the artist's experiences, the public's perception, and the commissioner's expectations. So what's that art? So this is where I'd like to bring up some examples. Has anybody seen this mural?
Yes.
Okay, it's kind of like a little nugget. It's one of my all-time favorites. I completed it last summer. So it's actually, that's Three Creeks Farm, and that's actually my grandma as a squirrel. She had just passed, and it was so weird having commission work while grieving, which I'm kind of realizing as an adult now. A lot of people just like work through grief, and I'm kind of into that. It was a nice distraction, and it allowed me to process a lot of feelings. So that's what I was bringing to the table as an artist during this time, and naturally I didn't tell the commissioner hardly any of that. It was actually Tanner Ott. He's a homie. He helps me out with a lot of different things, but also the complexity of landlordship. Anyway, so okay. He's gonna love that one if he watches it. So this is an example of where we struck a really great balance, finding the public perception of the art, and it being engaging, and also the public understanding what the artist's intention was with this, which was mostly to just evoke a positive emotion, to have a brief escape, to have nature in an unexpected place. So this is next to Dada Donor, kind of down in that little nook below Nourish. And while I was out there painting, I also engaged with the public in a lot of positive ways, which allowed me to trust how that artwork was being perceived. A lot of people brought me water, they brought me snacks. I was very well fed, which also I think contributed to the quality of the artwork. And I was able to paint a lot of things that were important to me as an artist and have that present in the work. And while there isn't any artist statement that coincides with these pieces, I believe that how the public responds to it is true to my intention of what I want that artwork to evoke. Additionally, the person who commissioned the work was very receptive as well and gave me a lot of creative freedom, while also having some guideposts that allowed me to deliver a piece that felt true to his brand as well, which was essentially just bringing some more art into the public space. So I was lucky enough to have a pretty good balance here, where even though this is a monetized piece of artwork, I feel as though the intentions are true and that we struck a nice balance with each of the components of the artwork in today's climate. Okay, here's another example, the Arcade District. Where to start with the Arcade District? This was a commission piece that I did a few years ago, and I did this in conjunction with the Arcade District and their branding, and they actually approached their branding in a really interesting way. The owner of that area, he wanted to commission murals prior to a lot of digital branding assets, which is not the usual. I kind of loved it though, because it was very retro. It was all kind of like original, like sci-fi ideas that he had come up with. So this was not my usual approach, where essentially my client brought like a stack of sci-fi novels that were like very interesting. I mean, if you look back at, Squirrel, this is usually what I'm painting. This is not my usual, and that also goes for the 3-story Madonna that's being abducted. That's a whole other thing. I thought about putting it up here, and I was like, I don't know if I want to unpack that. But if you want to unpack it, we can later. But this was an example of where my client had a lot of expectations and unspoken branding guidelines that I had to figure out through the creative process. And so his part of the Venn diagram was kind of chomping away at the other components of my Venn diagram. It was very explicitly for his view. He had a very specific vision, and I felt as though, as an artist, initially, I felt like a means to an end. And I had to really grow some courage to push back and kind of say, like, this isn't necessarily true to creatively what I want the public to perceive about my artwork. And so with this piece, I wanted to engage the public, but also provide for my client. So essentially what we decided to do was we painted exactly what my client wanted. We did, oh my God, 25 mock-ups, 30 I have no idea. No, that's every mural over there. I kid you not. But I learned a lot, and I also worked with a band. Which I don't usually, if I'm being honest, and I think that's why they don't ask me to speak at the J School anymore, because I said that in front of the class.
You speak truth.
Thank you. I like you guys. So anyway, in this iteration, we were able to get it almost to the finish line, and I felt kind of gross. I was up on the lift, and I was like, yeah, okay, this is just another one of those pieces I'm doing that's going to be a deliverable for the public and the client, but it is not going to ring true to me. But at the last minute, and I encourage you guys to drive by it on College Avenue for a better image, but if you look within those eyeballs, the client did allow me to put different aspects of the life of a young woman. And so in each eyeball, I was able to convey different aspects of caregiving that was kind of on my mind at the time. My husband and I had just started like having that conversation of like, oh my God, are we gonna like reproduce? And so that was just like totally on my mind. I was reading a bunch of books about it because I was like, oh my God, I guess that's like the next thing you do as a young person. But not this year. Maybe not until later. In each eye, I had different aspects of the female experience of being a young girl and being taken care of, and then being the caretaker herself, and kind of just that circular lifespan. So I encourage you to take a look. There is also a nipple on that mural, and nobody's caught it yet. Yes. Don't flag me for it, though. And I honestly think that the arcade district likes it like that. Okay, so that brings me to Walmart, which I have a very complex relationship with, but I like to take their money and use it for my liberal pursuits. So I know, that's right. And I put it back into our community, so that's what it's about, I think. You know, at some point as a professional artist, I'm realizing that there are certain clients that I don't necessarily agree with all of the time, but I can provide a service and have different motifs within the art that speak to me or might tell a hidden story. And a lot of my Walmart murals, they are usually very gay. But you can see those on my Instagram if you want to unpack those, but they do tell a story, and it is a very common coming of age. But in this one, clearly, I mean, I guess maybe, but in this one, this aligned with a lot of my interests, so I felt like this piece really conveyed my artist intention, which was to be playful. I also love big, which does not age well, but I did enjoy the other day when I watched it for what it's worth, and it was a big movie we had on VHS growing up, so I wanted to have this at 18th and Vine, where jazz is very upbeat. That's kind of the beat of that area of Kansas City, and I wanted to honor some of the historic properties on 18th and Vine, but they also, of course, naturally wanted to have the Chiefs on there. But I could not put any numbers. I had so many different numbers, and they were like, that's somebody, that's somebody. So I was like, all right, fine, I'm not gonna put any numbers on here, because it can't be like a real person, which is a real shame. But I did sneak me and my husband into the Blue Springs mural, so, yeah, I know. Hopefully they don't watch this and then I lose my kids. I did want to kind of be more playful with this piece, and I do feel like this was another great balance of the public perception aligned with what my intentions as an artist were, and it was a deliverable for the client, and they had no edits on the first try.
Wow.
Thank you guys. I wish people applauded every time I didn't have any edits. So here's some examples of just where it's just me and the client, and I think that you can tell whenever the client has really elevated my craft and allowed me to be playful. So I did a family portrait that was kind of abstract, which was really nice. I love murals in private spaces that tell the family story, and often people will say, well, we just want something floral. And I'm like, well, how can we create it so that maybe it's your mom's favorite flower, or maybe we include like some cardinals for family members who have passed. I try to keep it symbolic, but also I do love me some flowers. So these are, I think, great examples of whenever that balance is struck between me and the client. And then if they do have friends or neighbors come over, they engage with the artwork, and I feel like it stays true to the intention that I had as an artist when I was making it. It also is just, I like gift giving, so this felt like gifts to my clients. I know like some of the people who commission these are just wonderful people, and so this is what feels very good about making art. And whenever I'm able to kind of balance maybe the means to an end artwork that is heavily branded, I can find some refuge in art like this. So then here's me in the public. So this is whenever I'm making art explicitly for the public space, but it is still my intention on what I want to draw, what I want to make. So every May and October in Jeff City, they have Porch Fest, and Porch Fest is like where they have, each house has like bands on their porch, and they play all afternoon, and it is a huge joy. I really think Columbia could get something like that too, so if anybody has a little extra time, or maybe on your third cup, you could brainstorm. This is an example of kind of a painting I did where there was no commissioning act. There was nobody that was saying, this is what I want you to paint. So it was really freeing to just be playful, and often kids will come up and be like, I want you to paint this! And sometimes I'll do that. Like, I think this one has like some butterflies on it that some girl was like, do it! So, and then I also used to live on Ash Street, and actually the person who rents that space now still kept the artwork up on the windows. So if you're driving down Ash, that's my former apartment. And I did, that's actually the Terrapin Turtles, because I'm a Deadhead. So I went ahead and I had a huge Grateful Dead phase in 2020, and it stuck with me. But anyway, so I did the Dancing Turtles kind of while you're driving down Ash. And what's really cool about that too is that you could see that painting on the ground when the sun would filter in. So yeah, and it also comes off really easily. So I always encourage parents, if you have little ones that are kind of restless, especially maybe on these snow days, you can take chalk paint, put it on the window, and you get two different outputs of like the actual art on the window, or I guess three, because you can drive past and see it, and then on the interior it'll shine through and they'll be able to see the art on the floor. And then this is just my personal work. So these are ones that are just about me, and back in COVID, which I think is really when my creative journey really started, I did a lot of portraiture of just myself and where I was at the time, and I would always try to sneak in different elements. This one actually doesn't have an album on it, but I would always try to incorporate, usually it was just Joni Mitchell or something, but so I would kind of incorporate different elements of my life at the time, so you can kind of see some of those. I'm really drawn to kind of more simple iconography and folk art, so I wanted to have that incorporated. And then I also, if I am just painting, if I'm being honest, I don't have a studio space. Like, I have like a really nasty like room upstairs that I throw a bunch of stuff in, and then I'll go up there and sometimes I'll like make a mess, and but I have like a house that is not laid out for me to have a big studio space. So a lot of my artwork I do in the summertime, and I'll go outside and I'll lay all my canvases down on my backyard, because I have a pretty good backyard, but and it's fenced in. So I I've got all my canvases out, and I'll paint those on a nice day, and kind of get a bunch of different paintings started, and then I bring them inside whenever the weather's not as great, and I'll just kind of chip away canvas by canvas, which I really enjoy doing that as like more of a concise creative process. The goal is to have a studio space, but at this point, I just really don't do mess that much, and I'm also not very good at taking care of my brushes. So, but anyway, so those are some examples of just where I made the artwork for myself, and it's all rooted in, I think, peace, meditation. My artwork, whenever I'm just doing it for myself, is whenever I'm unpacking a lot of what being a young woman is, what my responsibilities are as a young woman. You can kind of see, like, this is Eve in the Garden of Eden, and then this was right after my cat had some health issues, and a lot of my artwork lately has been rooted in handling grief. And actually, whenever I was approached to do this presentation, my cousin and my dog had died in the same week. And so I was not feeling very inspired to get in front of a bunch of people and be like, art! But I just want to say I'm really grateful for the reception that I've had today, because I was a little nervous, and art is vulnerable, but I hope that the takeaway from this is that you're able to think about the artist behind a lot of artwork that might seem heavily branded, and being able to think past what the brand's intentions with that piece might have been, or if you know that the art was commissioned, what might the artist's intentions have been, because often I'm bringing a lot to the table that is in addition to the brand expectations of what that artwork might be. So anyway, thank you guys for having me.
We do have time for some questions, if you're
Yeah,
willing to take some.
I would love to.
So yeah, if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand. I'll try to bring the mic around, make it easier for people to hear.
Do you have any fun projects coming up that you're able to tell us about, or anything that you're commissioned that you're excited to work on?
Yes, let's see, today I'm working on the Missouri Folk Arts Commission down in Jeff City. They have like an installment coming into the Capitol, so I'm doing like little icons for that. And then I've got some mural projects up in the air, but nothing has been like totally confirmed just yet. I'm trying to think. And then there's also, I started a kids series at Cafe Berlin, so if you guys have kids, they're designed specifically for kids to engage with the arts. So myself and Amanda at Goldie's hired a couple of bands coming in on their way down to South by Southwest. So they're gonna pop up on stage, and then it's designed for kids to learn how to engage with live music and kind of learn concert etiquette. And then I'll be in the back with art supplies. So if they wanna do art while they're listening to music, I'll be in the back, and then my husband is making cheese quesadillas.
When is this?
It is March 8th.
March 8th, okay, thank you.
Oh, if you give me a microphone, I'll put it on the show.
Yes.
I'm just kidding. I am wondering, like, first of all, I'm blown away by this presentation. But so, like, you mentioned that you did art during COVID. Are you the only artist in your family? Is it where I would love to know kind of how that started, but also how did you begin getting paid to do this? Like, where did that start? How did that switch?
My origin
How were
story?
you discovered?
So in high school on a snow day, I did portraits of my friends with watercolor, and this was back when Twitter was like pure. And so I would post, people would DM me and be like, "Oh, paint me," and so I would paint portraits of them, and then I'd post them on my Twitter. And then I realized, oh my God, I'm really driven by engagement. The incentive of social media, I am weak to. I love to post. And so from there, I started selling my artwork at the Art Bazaar in Jeff City, which I think I was like 13, which like they had me working, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then from there, I actually came to Mizzou, and I started studying art, but I smoked way too much weed. So then I moved to the journalism school, and I befriended a Capricorn, and I was able to graduate with that degree eventually. Then my mom also is an artist, and she would teach art camps at my house. And then she also had a spiritual healing center with my aunt. in 2007 in Jeff City. So it didn't really survive the recession, but at the Healing Center, they would do yoga followed by music and dance, and then we would do an art workshop where erasers were banned. We weren't allowed to use an eraser, so it was all just play, and it was full body artwork. So you could get your feet wet with like different paint, and you could use your hands. And I think that might have been one of those moments where I realized like how much I appreciate the full body movement of painting murals. Because I don't usually do smaller stuff. I really enjoy getting out and being able to kind of move my arms around and like actually it be a physically, sometimes it's exhausting, but having it be a physical product for me feels the truest to my artistic self. And then also my grandmother had a paint club, but I think they just yapped the whole time, but they would paint. And then my great grandmother as well would do oil painting. But all the women in my family have painted murals, so. Thanks.
How do you carve out time for when you're doing just personal work? It seems like you're super busy. Like, do you have a schedule you follow to make sure you are also focusing inward?
I would say that my personal time, I don't know, it's hard because I'm so incentivized, because now, this is really my struggle right now, is that I've monetized so many details of my creative process that I have a hard time finding time to just make art for myself, especially whenever I don't have someone that's saying this is what you need to do. And so I almost think that that's my artist journey right now, is finding that free time, which was my resolution, free time, whatever the hell free time is. I heard that that's a thing, and so I think even conceptualizing free time and like giving myself pause where the output is literally just for myself is still a struggle I have. But like that's how during COVID I got started doing a lot more personal work because it was COVID and so everything was kind of stopped. But I would say usually like Friday and Saturday nights, especially because I'm trying to cut back on drinking. So I'm like, oh, I'll stay home and make some art and listen to Paul Simon and NPR until I get sad. And so that's it's not a ton of time, but I try to find it. And in the morning too, I'll try to do a little meditative practice in the morning before I go to work and draw something.
As a former freelancer, have you hit the point where you feel comfortable saying no to commissions, or is there a kind of client that you're like, yeah, I don't think we can work together?
I am just now learning to say no. I think because I had like a scarcity mindset going into this where I thought, well also like not both my parents, but I had a lot of energy in my family telling me that you can't do art like professionally, and so I said yes to everything to be like, ha, like, shows you. And then I got myself into stuff where I was not vibing with the client. But yes, I have started saying no, even though it like haunts me. And like I will think about how I want to say no, and I always say stuff like respectfully or like with all due respect. But yeah, I broke up with somebody yesterday, and it was a big moment for me. And then of course I'm like yelling into the other room to my husband. I'm like, I did it! So I get a little dance, I get all this energy, I get like the zoomies afterwards because I'm just like, oh my god. But yeah, so I do try now. Like I'll do a meeting prior to saying yes, because when I first started, I was like absolutely to everything, and learn those lessons. So.
All right, one more. Oh yeah, right here. Here we go. Yeah, you got it.
Very simple. You mentioned some music-related art projects. Do you ever do live murals?
Oh yeah, I love doing live murals. Yes, I like doing. I try, because one thing that's really nice, like this is not my usual. I actually do a lot of like public space stuff. But it's whenever I'm facing this way, and like I'm not having to make eye contact with a group of people, and I can just ruminate on stuff, and I'll do like live streams and stuff. But yes, one of my favorite things is we do at the cafe. We'll have like a lo-fi artist come in. It used to be DJ Soul Train, but he moved. But he would just do lo-fi vinyl spinning and stuff, and then we would throw a bunch of art supplies out on the tables. Yeah, it was really fun. But yes, I do a lot of public painting, and I love it whenever there's music that I can vibe with too. So.
All right, y'all. Let's give it up. Come on. That was great, right? So good. Adrienne, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you, give yourselves a round of applause. Yeah. Thank you all for coming out. Creative Mornings, we meet on the third Friday of most months, but like I said earlier, we're doing the happy hour thing. So always looking to grow the community. Obviously, our community is growing. We look forward to seeing you all at our next event at the Mont Mini. Thank you all.